channel. My name is Savannah, and if you're new here, please don't forget to subscribe and give this video a thumbs up if you like it. In today's video, we will continue our study in the book of Ecclesiastes. This will be part 6 of the series on this book, and I'll link parts 1 through 5 in the description. Solomon is continuing his journey to explain life and find its meaning, but he's doing this apart from any kind of eternal perspective. It's a perspective that says, what you see and experience here on earth is it. There is nothing beyond this life. And from this viewpoint, Solomon is going to give us advice on how to make a bad situation better. With that said, let's jump right into chapter 7, verse 1. A good name is better than precious ointment, and the day of death than the day of birth. It is better to go to the house of mourning than to go to the house of feasting. For this is the end of all mankind, and the living will lay it to heart. Sorrow is better than laughter, for by sadness of face the heart is made glad. The heart of the wise is in the house of mourning, but the heart of fools is in the house of mirth. It is better for a man to hear the rebuke of the wise than to hear the song of fools. For as the crackling of thorns under a pot, so is the laughter of the fools. This also is vanity. Solomon makes some very interesting claims here. He says that it's better to be in a house of crying, like in a funeral home, than it is to be in a house with people that are detached from reality and living with their head in the clouds. He says that the more you are exposed to the realities of adversity and death, the wiser you become. Verse 7. Surely oppression drives the wise into madness, and a bribe corrupts the heart. Better is the end of a thing than its beginning, and the patient in spirit is better than the proud in spirit. Be not quick in your spirit to become angry, for anger lodges in the heart of fools. Say not, why were the former days better than these? For it is not from wisdom that you ask this. Wisdom is good with an inheritance, an advantage to those who see the sun. For the protection of wisdom is like the protection of money, and the advantage of knowledge is that wisdom preserves the life of him who has it. Here, Solomon makes a comparison between patience and impatience. He says that a patient spirit is better than a prideful and hasty spirit because a hasty spirit is quick to become angry, and anger resides in the heart of fools. Then in verse 10, he makes reference to the idea from chapter 1 that there's nothing new under the sun. Don't say that the past was better than the present because nothing has changed. People will be people no matter what the time period. And then he recognizes the value of wisdom, saying that having it can actually preserve one's life. Verse 13. Consider the work of God. Who can make straight what he has made crooked? In the day of prosperity be joyful, and in the day of adversity consider. God has made the one as well as the other, so that man may not find out anything that will be after him. Solomon recognizes that God has made the day of prosperity as well as the day of adversity. And if we desire wisdom, we must realize that God is God and we are not. Verse 15. In my vain life I have seen everything. There is a righteous man who perishes in his righteousness, and there is a wicked man who prolongs his life in his evil doing. Be not overly righteous, and do not make yourself too wise. Why should you destroy yourself? Be not overly wicked, neither be a fool. Why should you die before your time? It is good that you should take hold of this, and from that withhold not your hand, for the one who fears God shall come out from both of them. In his under the sun premise, Solomon points out that no matter how rightly you live, a wicked person may still outlive you. Therefore, he says to do everything in moderation. Don't be too righteous, don't be too wicked, but stay right in the balance of the two. This is the best advice he has, because in a life where eternal judgment doesn't matter, in a life where you die and that's it, well, morals don't really matter in the grand scheme of things. As Christians, though, we know that morals do matter because they come from God, and he will judge the earth in righteousness. Verse 19. Wisdom gives strength to the wise more than 10 rulers who are in a city. Surely there is not a righteous man on earth who does good and never sins. Do not take to heart all the things that people say, lest you hear your servant cursing you. Your heart knows that many times you yourself have cursed others. Solomon recognizes the depravity of the human race and how we are all sinful. Then in verses 21 and 22, he says that when you hear someone saying something unkind about you behind your back, you shouldn't take it to heart because you yourself have said unkind and thoughtless things about others that you wouldn't want them to take to heart. Verse 13, all this I have tested by wisdom. I said, I will be wise, but it was far from me. That which has been is far off, and deep, very deep. Who can find it out? I turned my heart to know and to search out and to seek wisdom and the scheme of things, and to know the wickedness of folly and the foolishness that is madness. And I find something more bitter than death, the woman whose heart is snares and nets, and whose hands are fetters. He who pleases God escapes her, but the sinner is taken by her. Behold, this is what I found, says the preacher, while adding one thing to another to find the scheme of things, which my soul has sought repeatedly, but I have not found. One man among 1,000 I found, but a woman among all these I have not found. See, this alone I found, that God made man upright, but they have sought out many schemes. Solomon knew the value of true wisdom, but he realized that no matter how hard he tried, he could never be all-wise because God alone is all-wise. Then he notices the deceitfulness of the human heart and how only by pleasing God may we escape the traps of our own hearts. Then he closes out the section in verse 29 by recognizing that God made man without sin, but since the time of Adam in the garden, man has corrupted himself by turning away from God. Continuing on in chapter 8, verse 1, who is like the wise, and who knows the interpretation of a thing? A man's wisdom makes his face shine, and the hardness of his face is changed. I say, keep the king's command, because of God's oath to him. Be not hasty to go from his presence. Do not take your stand in an evil cause, for he does whatever he pleases. For the word of the king is supreme, and who may say to him, what are you doing? Here, Solomon points out that wisdom makes a person happier. He then says that if you are wise, you will keep the king's commands because the king is more supreme in power. Verse 5, whoever keeps a command will know no evil thing, and the wise heart will know the proper time and the just way. For there is a time and a way for everything, although man's trouble lies heavy on him. For he does not know what is to be, for who can tell him how it will be? No man has power to retain the spirit or power over the day of death. There is no discharge from war, nor will wickedness deliver those who are given to it. All this I observed while applying my heart to all that is done under the sun, when man had power over man to his hurt. Now he reflects on the uncertainty of time, judgment, and death, because no man knows the future, and no man has power over death. Verse 10, then I saw the wicked buried. They used to go in and out of the holy place, and were praised in the city where they had done such things. This also is vanity. Because the sentence against an evil deed is not executed speedily, the heart of the children of man is fully set to do evil. Though a sinner does evil 100 times and prolongs his life, yet I know that it will be well with those who fear God, because they will fear before him. But it will not be well with the wicked, neither will he prolong his days like a shadow, because he does not fear before God. Solomon says that when the wicked die, people praise them instead of remembering their evil deeds. He says this is vanity. Then he notices that because the punishment for evil is not always immediately enforced, people will continue in their evil ways. He also says that those who fear God will do well, but it will not be well with the wicked. Verse 14, there is a vanity that takes place on earth, that there are righteous people to whom it happens according to the deeds of the wicked. And there are wicked people to whom it happens according to the deeds of the righteous. I said that this also is vanity, and I commend joy, for man has nothing better under the sun but to eat and drink and be joyful, for this will go with him in his toil through the days of his life that God has given him under the sun. When I applied my heart to know wisdom and to see the business that is done on earth, how neither day nor night do one's eyes see sleep, Then I saw all the work of God, that man cannot find out the work that is done under the sun. However much man may toil in seeking, he will not find it out. Even though a wise man claims to know, he cannot find it out. In verse 14, Solomon despairs over the injustice on the earth. He says that there are righteous people who suffer and wicked people that have it great in life. He says this is vanity. And lastly, he closes out this section by observing that no matter how wise you are, you can never be fully satisfied with wisdom. And that's because there are too many unanswered questions that will not be answered under the sun. Well, that's all I have for today's video. I thank y'all so much for watching. I will see y'all in my next video. And as always, don't forget to thank God for waking up this morning.